hands-on bomb dismantling to bomb disposal robots. It made the world a safer place. From cameras with film to instant digital shooters, it gave us a new way of seeing ourselves. From landline phones to mobile communicators, it put the world at our fingertips. They're all inventions of the 1970s, a decade of disco dancing, digital devices, and high-priced oil. From the cell phone to the digital camera to the hybrid car, they're the inventions that shook the world. Today, we take phone calls like these for granted. And no wonder, with 8 billion people on the planet, there are now almost 5 billion cell phones. It all started with a gutsy engineer who believed nothing was impossible. 1972, Schaumburg, Illinois.
Right.
Marty Cooper is under the gun. He's Mr. Big, in charge of the car phone division at Motorola.
Right, bye.
And Motorola's arch rival, AT&T, the telephone giant, has come up with a brand new system for handling phone calls from cars. What's more, they've asked the government for a monopoly on a big chunk of the airwaves to run it on.
Margaret, get the team together. Conference room. First thing in the morning. Thanks. Bye.
Marty's marching orders keep Motorola in the game.
Marty Cooper was a very energetic, innovative, madcap kind of guy. The kind of person who could envision something and make it happen.
Exactly the kind of guy you'd need when you're up against a telecommunications giant like AT&T.
All right, gentlemen, here's the situation.
In 1972, the only mobile phones are car phones, and both Motorola and AT&T are trying to find ways to make them work better.
Marty Cooper is the kind of person who could see what we needed and then had the engineering wherewithal to make that idea into an actual physical working device.
Mobile car phones are big, clunky pieces of hardware connected by a cord to a 40-pound transmitter receiver in the trunk. The only thing that's mobile is the car. What's worse, they don't work very well. You sometimes have to wait half an hour just to put a call through. That's because calls from cars are handled through single powerful giant antennas that send and receive signals over huge coverage areas and operate on only a few channels. Cooper knows the new system AT&T has come up with will handle vastly more calls, and his company is now scrambling to set up a similar rival network. The idea is to use smaller antennas, but lots of them, each operating on hundreds of frequencies. It's called a cellular network.
Call anyone, anywhere, and
if it catches on, what's at stake for Motorola is hundreds of millions of dollars.
The smaller the company, the more dangerous it is to take a chance because you don't have the money to back up what you need to do if you begin failing or faltering. A big company can afford to take a risk because it has the money to back up everything, even if it makes a false step. So this was a big thing for Motorola to do. If it didn't work, that could fatally hurt the company.
Right. Look, we have to convince the feds that we're players.
He's up against the big guy on the block, and Marty Cooper's desperate for an idea that will give Motorola an edge. Something to show that AT&T isn't the only cellular network game in town. Then, a science fiction show on TV catches Cooper's eye. As a character talks into a tiny cordless communicator, Marty Cooper has an incredible thought.
If they can do it on Star Trek, why can't we do it here? It made so much sense. Wouldn't it be great to have in your pocket a little thing that you could take out and call anyone you wanted to anytime, wherever you were?
It's a radical idea. If it works, people wouldn't have to go to where the phone is. The phone would travel with you. It's the answer Marty's been looking for. A portable personal phone run off the new cellular network.
A network is a very abstract thing, but a phone you hold in your hand, here is what I invented. We are a serious telephone company by virtue of this device. Here, look at it yourself.
While AT&T is still thinking about a better network for car phones, Marty is now a giant leap ahead of them.
Gentlemen, here's what we're gonna make. The Star Trek Communicator.
Cooper has to convince his team to boldly go where no man has gone before. The handheld phone he's envisioning will work off the new cellular network, just like a car phone. As the caller moves from zone to zone, the call would automatically be passed on from one antenna's coverage area or cell to the next. The only problem is, a phone that small has never been built before. Could it even be done? He's hoping to take advantage of a brand new invention called the Microprocessor. A single tiny electronic chip does the same job as a bunch of car phone components in much less space.
Cooper was doing this at exactly the right time because things were getting smaller anyway.
Step by step, Cooper and his team drive the revolutionary personal cell phone into reality.
Look, we've been working on this night and day. I'm telling you, we're really close.
By March of 1973, the Motorola team has a working prototype. It looks more like the Flintstones than Star Trek.
You dial the number, hit send, you talk.
But at the time, it's a technological miracle. And Cooper's not done yet.
Marty Cooper had a brand sense of publicity in addition to everything else. Nothing that he did was low-key. He had all this very, very carefully planned.
April 3rd, 1973, Marty Cooper hits the streets of New York. He meets with a group of reporters at a phone booth.
Gentlemen, I brought you here to make a phone call on this, the first cellular telephone.
And who does he call?
Hey, Joel. Marty Cooper from Motorola calling.
His competitor at AT&T.
Yeah, I'm just calling to let you know that I've invented the world's first cellular telephone. Have a nice day.
So that's the kind of person he was. He loved the process. He loved the game. The first call he makes on his little phone, again, not so little, is to his competitor at AT&T to basically stick it to him. Hey, how you doing? I'm calling you on the very thing that you have not yet invented.
The press is astounded.
You're not gonna believe this.
It's a life-changing day.
It's freaking amazing. I gotta go.
Marty Cooper said that was one of the most exhilarating moments in his life. And he knew that he changed the world the instant he made that successful call.
I think this will catch on.
I think it'll be pretty popular, yes.
You think so? Within 2 decades, everyone has one, and they are no longer just for phone calls. 4 ounces of electronics puts everything at your fingertips. Marty Cooper's big idea had truly changed the world. More inventions of the 1970s. 1976, the Mailmobile. The newest office robot follows a chemical path in the floor. But watch out. 1979, the portable cassette player arrives and turns everyone into a walking stereo system. And 1977, the first successful human-powered flight. Held together by Scotch tape and powered by bicycle pedals, the lightweight contraption completes a 1.8-kilometer course and wins a cash prize that had gone unclaimed for 18 years. Today, no office can function without them. The sticky little notes that help us not forget. They keep us organized, and they let us talk to each other. They're the brainchild of a chemical engineer who had a sticky little problem. It's 1972, Minneapolis, Minnesota. It all started out as a Sunday morning service like any other. But as the choir sings the hymn, 39-year-old Art Fry's page marker slips off his hymn book and onto the floor. Hardly an earth-shattering event, but as he stoops to pick it up, it gets Fry's inventive brain thinking. By the time he's through, he won't just solve his bookmark problem, he'll change the face of office work around the world. Fry was born in small-town Iowa, educated in a one-room school. Not a lot to do in town, so his dad taught him to tinker.
He started taking me to the dump on weekends, and then I could pick out some things to bring home and tear apart. It taught me a lot about how things were made.
A PhD in chemical engineering teaches him even more. Enough to land a job at 3M, the big American company that invented Scotch Tape.
I was the original lab nerd, you know. I had 2 pocket protectors, not just one.
But this story really starts 5 years before with another 3M scientist, an ambitious organic chemist who's hoping to invent a new spray adhesive, Spencer Silver.
In 1968, I was a young PhD. Lots of enthusiasm. I believed in initiative, and I was really anxious to do something earth-shaking. And so I was happy to be in a laboratory where I could explore new ideas and not necessarily answer day by day about what I did.
But Spencer's latest chemical concoction hasn't exactly turned out. It sticks, but not very well.
That happens a lot in chemistry. You don't actually fail, you just didn't anticipate those results.
But Silver is intrigued. His strange new goop has one other curious characteristic. When you reuse it, it still stays sticky. He soon discovers what's going on. Silver's strange adhesive has an unusual molecular structure that resembles the pebbled skin of a basketball. The individual molecules form tiny, round microspheres, creating a bumpy surface. Only the tops of the bumps make contact with whatever surface it is stuck against, so the result is a little bit of stickiness, but not very much. Silver applies for a patent for what he calls acrylate copolymer microspheres. He's convinced the new substance must have some use. He just doesn't know what.
I thought it'd be very useful as a bulletin board. Now, that's not an earth-shattering product, but it's a product. And, you know, after all, I've been working for 2 years at 3M. I needed to have a product.
The sticky bulletin board isn't a big seller, but Silver still has hope for his magical microspheres.
I don't give up on anything very easily, and I was very stubborn about this process. 3M was initially quite interested. Everybody liked the idea that you could spray the adhesive. And this division that I took it to, they were very interested in it too, but the interest kind of waned for some odd reasons, well, some substantial reasons, but it kind of drifted away.
It takes 5 long years until that other scientist, Art Fry, hears about Silver's crazy goop. And not long after that, Fry has that awkward little moment with his hymn book marker at church.
I thought, what I really need is a bookmark that will stick to the paper, but not tear it apart. So, how do you get one that sticks more lightly?
And that's when it hits him. The answer is sitting in the lab back at 3M. Spencer Silver's sticky little spheres.
The next morning, I went back to the lab. I thought, well, I'll go get a sample from Spence.
I didn't know exactly what Art was going to do with it, but I knew he was a creative guy.
Fry applies the one-of-a-kind adhesive to the back of a bookmark and plans to try it out in his hymn book next time he's at church. But he's already thinking if it works out, maybe other people might want slightly sticky bookmarks too. He could be onto a winner. Except that first field test doesn't go as planned. The bookmark sticks perfectly, but
Horrors. When I removed them, the adhesive came off, and those pages stuck together for years later. And so I realized that this product has a lot of responsibility. I have to weld those adhesive particles to that paper so they can't possibly come off.
now Fry has to figure out how to glue the glue so it doesn't come off. Back in the lab, He paints a chemical primer on the back of the bookmark to help stick the glue and puts the glue on top. Then Fry tests it out. It works, the glue stays stuck. But hold the champagne. When he hands out sample bookmark pads around 3M, he discovers his product has a fatal commercial flaw.
They liked them, but when I came back a couple weeks later, they hadn't used up the pad that I gave them, and that's kind of discouraging. We like things that people use up and buy again, you know.
Fry sets aside the disappointing product to catch up on some reports. Without thinking, he jots a note to his boss on one of his special bookmarks and sticks it to the document. Never suspecting, he's about to hit the big bonanza.
Well, he wrote the answer right on that note and stuck it on something to be sending back to my office.
That's when the light bulb goes on. Fry realizes the product isn't just a bookmark, but a whole new way to communicate. An office revolution is about to begin.
Oh my gosh. It was a wonderful feeling because we knew that what we had was good.
The timing couldn't be better. In the 1970s, modern offices are being deluged with paper.
Gosh, we could make them in pads, we can make them in rolls, we can make labels with these things, we can make tapes with this because it works with paper. Nobody had made a system that works with paper.
Everybody needed a short-form way to keep track of it. Fry has finally found the problem that the sticky paper was a solution to, and everyone knows what happens next. The sticky little Post-it pads are a worldwide smash hit. Today, it's hard to imagine life without them.
You could stick them in paper, you could stick them on the refrigerator.
The idea that you can put just a few sentences or a few words on a little note, stick it up somewhere, send it to somebody, it's Twitter. This is Twitter before computers.
Whatever it is, neither Fry nor Silver receives any special financial reward for the invention, but both are named to the American Inventors Hall of Fame.
People just love Post-it notes. It's sort of like having invented ice cream. Everybody likes them.
Other inventions of the decade. 1974, the touchscreen.
Touching the keyboard or the screen produces immediate response.
The new sensor technology spells an end to button pushing. 1971, Salyut 1. The Russians put up the first research lab in space. It's reliable, it's versatile, and it's fearless. The bomb disposal robot lets bomb squads do their deadly job from a distance. It began with an eccentric military man who had a crazy idea. England, 1972. Lieutenant Colonel Peter Miller packs up after a devastating day at the British Army's Weapons and Explosives Testing Center. 2 more British soldiers have been blown up in Northern Ireland while trying to dismantle an IRA bomb. Attacks that are happening more often and getting nastier with every hit. The IRA's latest new weapon, the car bomb, is particularly lethal for the bomb disposal crew.
They had to take what was called the long walk, and they had to walk up to the car and look in the window and see if there was a bomb in it or what sort of bomb it might be. It was a very dangerous job. Sometimes they would have had to find a way to open the car and take the risk of that before they could even look at the bomb and attempt to defuse it. So it took an incredible amount of courage and patience and concentration on the part of those chaps.
The British Army is desperate for a solution. They've chosen Peter Miller to try to find one. Miller's a maverick, known for his creative solutions to everyday problems.
Peter Miller
is certainly a man who thinks outside the box and who would come up with unorthodox solutions to things. I think I did hear a story that he had also come up with some sort of automatic clothesline which collapsed up and down, but that it didn't really work well.
Miller's slightly mad engineering wizardry had already improved all kinds of military equipment, from tanks to portable shields.
It's a measure of sort of how off the wall he was, that he had used his skills and his inventiveness to develop a lawnmower which he could remotely control and cut his grass, while he could sit and have a gin and tonic and watch.
He realizes what's needed in Northern Ireland is a device to allow operators to deal with car bombs without having to go near them. Whatever he comes up with has to be simple, something he can put together fast. Miller's quirky mind keeps thinking of that remote-controlled lawnmower he rigged up with ropes at home. So it cut his grass in ever-decreasing circles around a pole. Suddenly, it gives Miller an idea that just might work. What if he modified the lawnmower chassis and system of ropes to create a remote-controlled vehicle equipped with a tow hook so a suspicious car could be towed away to a safe location surrounded by sandbags and blown up? No one ever had to go near it. A lawnmower would work. But then Miller spots something even better. A motorized wheelbarrow.
Don't be playing around here no more.
Its flat load chassis would make a perfect platform.
Excuse me, mate. Where did you get this?
The sun.
No. The wheelbarrow.
From the garden center.
Right. Right.
Miller doesn't waste time. By Monday morning, he's found a wheelbarrow and drawn up some kitchen table sketches. They quickly get to work, putting together his improvised invention.
So urgent was the need. All the channels of bureaucracy were all bypassed completely. They were given a blank check virtually to develop this and to get on with it.
They strip it down to the bare chassis and engine, then add a towing hook and a primitive system of ropes so it can be steered from a distance.
It was just very basic, very simple. It was very much a made-up contraption.
By March 30th, Miller has his first crude prototype. A motorized platform with a spring-loaded grappling hook at the end of a boom. It's remote-controlled in its most basic form. The operator maneuvers it with long ropes. That night, Miller gets another of those dreaded calls from Belfast.
Boss.
Yes?
Telephone call.
Yes?
Another operator has died while defusing a bomb. This time, it's a 20-year veteran with a wife and 3 kids.
He walked up to the device and he shone his torch into it. And he had just turned to walk away from the device when it exploded. He was blown across the street and through the window of a shop opposite and died instantly.
The situation is so urgent, the Army orders Miller to put his invention on the plane to Belfast that night. Ready or not, after a few weeks of field trials, it will be put to the ultimate test. June 26, 1972. There's a bomb inside a Ford Cortina at a Belfast car dealership. The bomb experts also suspect it's booby-trapped if they open the doors. Controlled from a safe distance by 90 feet of rope, the wheelbarrow inches towards the car. As it gets closer, the operator pauses. If the car is booby-trapped and he bumps it, it could blow up on the spot and take Miller's new hardware with it. They hold their breath as the grappling hook slowly extends. Finally, it latches onto the bumper without triggering an explosion. Now, an armored vehicle, well out of range, can begin towing both vehicles away. But there's a hitch.
As they were attempting to tow it back out, the wheelbarrow turned over. It went upside down and the plot had to be abandoned halfway through. In the end, they fired rockets at the car to detonate it.
To some, it might have looked like a failure, but not to Miller. he realized that with a few modifications, the idea could work.
Thanks to Peter Miller, bomb disposal became a hands-off operation rather than a hands-on operation.
And Miller has barely got started.
There was no shopping list, as it were. The first idea was, could we find a way to tow the car bombs to safer ground where we could surround them with sandbags and minimize the effects of an explosion? And then, as experience and the problem developed, they thought maybe we should be able to do other things.
He's soon adding on all sorts of new gizmos to his remote-controlled contraption. Even tank treads to go upstairs.
Every time a bomb disposal officer was killed in Belfast, Peter Miller and his colleagues were on the telephone to find out what had happened. Was there a piece of equipment that might have helped them?
Miller's invention quickly morphs from a basic garden wheelbarrow into a highly sophisticated remote-controlled robot.
His invention transformed the way bombs are dealt with. It has saved many lives. Peter Miller is regarded in the bomb disposal industry as the man who made the difference.
Which earns him the gratitude of every bomb disposal man alive. Other new ideas of the decade. 1979, inline skates. Who needs ice anymore? The newest shoes on wheels get you where you gotta go. 1971, the pocket calculator.
A really fast thinker, one that works anywhere.
Suddenly, everybody's a math whiz. Today's digital cameras do everything and make waiting for prints a thing of the past. The guy who figured it out was a junior engineer with time on his hands. 1974, Rochester, New York. Steve Sassen's boss at Eastman Kodak is about to give him something to keep him busy.
Mr. Sasson.
Yes, sir?
Here's a camera and a CCD chip. See what you can do with it.
Yes, sir.
Sassen's fresh out of college, and he's a keener.
When I first started at Kodak, I was living a bit of a dream I had. As a kid, I was always interested in electronics, and I built stuff at home. I took parts off of old TV sets, built transmitters and stereos. I just thought it was really neat. I liked it, you know.
He has a feeling that CCD his boss gave him is the way of the future, in ways nobody has figured out yet. The CCD, short for Charge Coupled Device, is an experimental silicon chip. It's extremely small, but can store huge amounts of information by converting light into electrical charges that store data. If it can store data, Steve's bosses want to know what potential it has for storing or capturing images.
What I said is, if I'm going to store an image, I want to capture images, and then I want to be able to go around and capture different images, so I would like to build a camera.
He'll try to use the CCD instead of film to capture the photographs. He's imagining a camera unlike anything that's ever existed. Sassen figures when the light passes through the lens and falls on the CCD, its photosensitive detectors will convert it into electrical charges. These charges can then be converted into a series of numbers that describe the original image. The information is stored on a magnetic tape cassette.
I had no idea how to do it, but I just thought I couldn't see any reason why it couldn't be built.
With the help of a lab technician, he pilfers bits and pieces from Kodak's spare parts bins, some circuit boards, chips from a used voltmeter, and an old movie camera lens.
This one work? Let's give it a try.
Sassen sets about constructing the digital circuitry from scratch.
The lens I used was a lens from an XL movie camera, you know, one of our Super 8 movie cameras. I used that entire lens assembly, and instead of having the film plane where the film would go, I put that charge-coupled device chip right there. So it saved me a lot of work because I didn't know how to design lenses, and I didn't have a budget to do any special lens.
In a back room at Kodak, they assemble a tangle of wires and circuit boards. Sassen's filmless digital camera is gradually taking shape. The CCD is now capturing the images. They just can't see them.
Start off to see if you could just get the device to work, and then you'd say, can I digitize it? And you sort of solve one problem after the next.
And his next problem is to build a special playback machine that can convert the digital information into an image he can see. The playback machine will read the digital data taken from the CCD, turn it into a video signal, and send it to a TV screen. A few more months and 20 pounds of technology later, Sasson and his technician, Jim Schickler, finally connect up the camera to the playback machine. By December 1975, they have a basic prototype.
It was a box sitting on top of like a frame that had a bunch of circuit boards in it.
The odd-looking contraption is the size of a toaster and weighs in at 8 pounds. It's finally time to test it. The big question now is whose picture? Sasson's or Schickler's? Sasson gets a better idea.
Just 1 second. Hold on 1 second.
And returns minutes later with a young lab technician who's a lot more photogenic than 2 bleary-eyed scientists who've spent too long in the lab. They've worked toward this moment for over a year. There's nothing left to do but hit the button and hope. The primitive prototype takes 23 seconds to capture and record the image. Then the playback machine sends their picture to the TV. It's the moment of truth. Her face is a digital blur, but Sasson's pretty pleased with himself.
Jim and I were staring at the monitor, and we were overjoyed at what we saw because we knew there were 1,000 reasons why you might not see anything at all.
It needs work.
The scientists figure there must be a reason her face is so blurry.
Hold on. Then you get the, oh, I know what I did.
It turns out they'd accidentally crossed 2 wires. They try it again. Suddenly, the world's first digital photograph comes clear. And Sasson tastes success.
And we were very, very happy. You know, wow, it actually does work.
Congratulations. Congratulations to you. I can't even believe that.
So does Kodak instantly leap on Sasson's new photographic wonder? Not exactly. Selling film and processing it has been the company's bread and butter for 136 years. A filmless camera? Are you kidding? And besides, the technology is still way too big. It's not until the 90s, 25 years after he took his first picture, that the revolution in photo technology that Sasson started finally takes off. It changes not just the way we take pictures, but what we take and how we share them.
There's more opportunity to capture those images, to communicate the human condition around the world, because everybody has now access to the technology that enables them to be able to do that.
And for that, Sasson receives the National Medal of Technology and Innovation. He even gets his picture taken beside Obama. With digital cameras, of course. More inventions of the 1970s. 1971, the food processor, an invention by a French catering company salesman, takes the muscle out of mashing. It's salvation for lazy cooks. 1977, the MRI uses magnetic fields to scan the body, sending out radio waves that cancer cells can't hide from. And 1974, Rubik's Cube, a puzzle invented by a Hungarian professor for his students, becomes a worldwide obsession.
Once you get your hands on Rubik's Cube, you may never be able to put it down.
Ever since cars hit the road, designers have experimented with all kinds of exotic body styles. But under the hood, it was always that same choice: gas or diesel-fueled or electric. That is, until a brainy engineer from the Bronx came up with a car that got the best of both. New Jersey, 1970. Victor Woke is out to convince the world that a battery-powered engine is the best way to make cars move. Except after a year working on this one, he's not so sure. Don't be fooled by the coveralls. Woke is no backstreet grease monkey.
My father was a brilliant man, and a lot of his invention came from thinking about things, so he wasn't a backyard tinkerer.
Armed with a PhD in electrical engineering, Woke worked on components for planes, high-voltage electricity, and even the Manhattan Project that developed the first atomic bomb. All this before he decided to revolutionize the car.
My father was an extremely driven person. He spent tremendous amount of hours at work. He was a problem solver.
And by 1970, this was the problem that needed solving. It's the era of the gas guzzler. America is on top of the world, and nothing says power like a big, fast car. Emissions and fuel efficiency are the last things on anybody's mind.
We were heading for the moon. Anything was possible. Bigger, better, more powerful. That defined success.
Woke's interest in alternatives to cars that pollute and guzzle gas began as a student at Caltech. He helped build the winning electric car in a student race across America. But 3 decades and several unsatisfactory car conversions later, he's convinced that a totally electric car simply isn't gonna work.
The fundamental problem with the all-electric vehicle is the battery. A normal battery compared to gasoline carries about 1/10 as much energy.
Batteries physically can't store enough energy to go far enough or fast enough to compete with a gas-driven car. Then it occurs to Woke. Maybe there's a way to combine the power of the gasoline engine with the cleanliness and fuel efficiency of the electric engine. He starts to imagine how he'd build a hybrid of the two. He envisions using a gas engine to power an electric motor that drives the wheels. The beauty of it is, he'll set the gas engine to run at a constant speed, no revving up and down. So there's lower emissions. It's also extremely efficient because the electric motor only uses part of the gas engine's power at slow speeds and stores the rest in the batteries in the trunk. When the car accelerates, the batteries kick in the extra power. Lowering gas consumption and cutting emissions without reducing performance has a lot of appeal. The idea is about to get even more appealing. Chemical engineer Charlie Rosen, a fellow hybrid enthusiast, brings news of a new government program to encourage cleaner running cars. It's called the Federal Clean Car Incentive Program. America is waking up to its pollution problem, and the newly formed Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, will pay thousands of dollars for any experimental car that could meet their strict new emission standards.
The program said you have to build the car, but if it passes, then the government will buy 10 of them for $30,000.
Woke jumps at the chance. He and Rosen form a company. They set out to build the world's first marketable hybrid car. Their starting point? A Buick Skylark. It's a gas guzzler, but it's got exactly what Woke wants under the hood. Plenty of space. They'll need every square inch for 2 separate systems. The gas engine and the electric motor, and a rat's nest of connecting wires.
They had to put all of this stuff into a car. You had an electronics expert, and you had a chemist. Neither of them were automotive engineers.
So before they start, they hire a good mechanic.
We got a lot of work to do. Let's get started.
The team of 3 now gets at it, removing the Skylark's beefy V8 engine and figuring out how to fit in the complex arrangement of components.
I think the more difficult it became, the more he enjoyed it.
2 years into the project, world events give the intrepid inventors a second lucky break. A conflict in the Middle East causes an oil shortage in the West. Gas prices soar. Woke's crazy hybrid is starting to make more sense every day. By 1974, they've fitted a bank of batteries into the trunk and now connect up the two systems that will run the car. Their hybrid motor is finally beginning to take shape, but at a cost. For Woke, what began as a dream is becoming all-consuming.
It became his life almost to the exclusion of other things. He would spend hours and hours working on a problem, and it became close to an obsession.
And there's plenty to obsess about. If Woke can't get longer life out of his batteries, his car will never pass the government test. It could be on a road to nowhere. He experiments with an innovative braking system called Regenerative Braking.
When you slow down a car, what do you do with all that energy?
Normally, when you brake, the lost forward energy is dissipated through friction as heat. In Woke's hybrid, that energy is harvested to help recharge the batteries. It's finally time to see how it all works. He's built a hybrid gas-electric vehicle that he's been dreaming about for so many years. It sips gas at half the rate of other cars on the road. All it needs now is the EPA approval, but a bombshell is about to drop.
Yes.
Woke calls the EPA to book the emissions test. The Clean Car Incentive Program has been scrapped. The government has no interest in even looking at the car. It's 1974. The Arab oil embargo is over, gas is cheap again, and clean, efficient cars are no longer a priority.
When my father learned that the initiative had been canceled, he was somewhere between furious and depressed. But he continued on.
A man who was born in the Bronx doesn't give up that easily. Woke continues to lobby. And with a little help from scientific friends in high places, he finally convinces the EPA to do the test. He's got everything and more wrapped up in this car. Woke and Rosen both know that winning over the EPA is the only way they will realize their dream.
And then the car was packed up and shipped out to Michigan.
4 years of work, and it all comes down to this. The EPA man puts the car through its paces at the Ann Arbor Testing Center. How did it do? He's impressed. The car runs at half its former gas consumption and an astounding 1/20th of the emissions.
The hybrid was the only vehicle which actually met all the requirements of the EPA tests. They were so proud of that.
But despite the apparent success of the field tests, Woke is shocked to learn a month later it's been rejected. His family feels the EPA simply didn't want a hybrid car.
They weren't interested. He tried to use political influence. It didn't help.
But Woke fights on for 2 more years until he eventually runs out of money and is forced to give up.
It was a very bad time for him.
The hybrid idea lies dormant for the next 25 years. In the US, gas is too cheap, but not in Japan. In 1997, Toyota launches Prius, the first hybrid car ever to hit the market. In consultation with Woke, they've even used many of his technical innovations. Prius is a hit, and guess who buys one?
My father was so happy when the Prius came out. If anybody sat in it, and in fact, if you visited him, you had to, he would take you around and show you what it was doing. He loved it.
Today, there are over 300,000 hybrids running on American roads. Victor Woke, the godfather of hybrid car technology, is vindicated at last. And so ends the 1970s. In what is the most inventive century the world has ever known.